Thank you so much. I will touch upon a very well-known topic. The conference has been ongoing and focusing for a couple of years on safety, and we've been talking about online safety, and I'm going to present very fresh results. I think that this is the first time that I've been talking about that. Professor David Schmachel, who talked about EU Kids Online, together with his team, is responsible for the coordination of the quantitative parts of the study, but I'm not going to show you superficial results. I actually selected a couple of results that I actually put together because I wanted to show you that actually we need a thinking shift, thinking about the skills or the abilities and the inabilities of young people online. Please have a look. We are talking about safety and competences that are important for safety. Now, we have been participating in the conference for quite some time, and these two words are still with us. But actually, let's think, did we understand these two words in the same way that we understand them today, 10 years ago versus today? I think that we have the same label for different things, for different topics. There are different key topics that we focus on. On the other hand, thinking about competences, so what young people have to know in order to neutralize threats or to be resilient to it, to have some sort of a shield protecting young people from threats. Then we are also thinking about competences. So yes, we do have the same label that we just keep sticking on different things. Everything is changing, and it is changing due to technology. Safety and security is related to technology. And for instance, deep fakes or other threats, putting voiceover on in films, in movies, etc. This has become a problem recently. But it's not only about technology, because when we think about the epidemics or pandemics and mental health of the young people, then health literacy becomes something that we need to deal with. So it's not only about technology, but also about all the surrounding elements. The problem that we talked about as a keyword, actually, we talked about truth, untruth, fake news, and this is only one element of a very complex umbrella problem. Usually we talk about truth and untruth online, or understanding this a content as truth or as untruth. Many people say that untrue information constitutes a threat to education. So for instance, you can learn something that is actually erroneous because you're using wrong resources or sources of information. But the deeper we think, the more we come to a conclusion that truth and untruth, for instance, when it comes to health, relates to health choices that can be detrimental to us. So actually we can decide to treat our health in a certain way, to decide about, for instance, activities that we want to undertake, taking risks, etc. Speaking about social life, information can change political situation, or they can affect voting, or they can polarize the relations among different groups in the same country. So this is a whole new other topic. We used to think about threats and risks as something closely related to the internet. Someone will steal something from me, someone will steal my data. But now this whole problem from a very narrow one became a big one, as I've said, an umbrella one, encompassing health choices, health literacy, social interactions, etc. So this is very true, and we have to reflect on that, because if we continue thinking in a systematic way we used to think, we won't be flexible. Now, about this study. The study was conducted in 13 countries. The quantitative part of the study was conducted in 6 countries. Now, I'm going to show you raw data before clearing out the data from noise, but basically the results speak for themselves anyway. The study is very interesting, and actually it is a longitudinal study which shows different results from a couple of years ago and today. So actually during 4 years we are analyzing the very same group of young people. We verify their development, and we actually have different variables related to digital competences. So actually every year we have 3 different stages of this study, and we can monitor the very same individual in a longitudinal way. During the pandemic, collecting results was very challenging, including getting all the consents, etc. But results are really juicy, so to speak, and I've selected the juiciest parts, I would say. So I'm going to show you what can be triangulated with what, or crossed with what, or mixed. And speaking about that, I'm going to, for instance, address ideas that refer to the work of someone who, for instance, deals with media and competences, etc. So first, ladies and gentlemen, let's start with technological competences or skills. Very frequently, we focus on what young people can do when it comes to technology or technicalities. So, for instance, we asked whether someone can do something based or with certain tools. But the thing is that even if we think about certain skills in a technical way, it affects social interactions. So the first actually cube tells us I can change privacy settings. Now this affects our social interactions, because if someone cannot change privacy settings, then all the content is online. Now if someone doesn't know where the settings are and how to change them, the content is available for each and everyone around the globe. Now in this study, we studied adolescents aged more than 13 years old, and actually only 65% of adolescents claimed that they can definitely change the privacy settings, and actually 6% of the adolescents didn't understand the question. We actually tested the tool, we validated our tool, but still some people didn't understand the question. And actually what we did is not that frequent amount researchers, because the quality of quantitative studies in Poland is actually not that good. Now there was also another question about whether a person can actually secure a mobile phone with a PIN code or a fingerprint. This is the second cube, the one in the upper right corner, and we have we have actually only 80% of people who can definitely do that. Now on the bottom left corner we have a question about blocking unwanted content. Only 75% of people can do that definitely, and actually this shows us that young people do not estimate their skills, their abilities as high. And speaking about that, if we don't take these results into consideration, those micro technical skills that people want to that people should have, then we'll fail. For instance, when educating young people about what to see or what to visit. Now, the juicy part. We asked our participants what they did during the past months. These percentages don't give us 100% because the elements are selected. Namely, the slide shows a statement. I looked for information about health, trauma or treatment during the past months. Now, the upper part tells us something about the physical health, and then there is another question about mental health. Actually, two of these are interrelated and cannot be really isolated one from another. So the first thing, people look for information about health online. And let's say a young person wants to verify, what should I do? Do I have to go to the doctors, or shouldn't I go to the doctors? I don't have to do that. Now, people were asked whether during the past year they happened to make bad health-related choices about their health. This actually is highlighted in red. And starting from the left side, there is 44% of people stated that they didn't make any bad choice. Now, for a young person, to answer this question, yes or no, a young person has to know that they made a bad health-related decision. Sometimes people wouldn't know that the decision was bad. So some people would say yes, and if we or no, and if we went to ask the young person about the decision, it could turn out that it was actually bad without this person knowing that. Now let's go deeper. Frequently, we ask young people about competition in this way, namely giving them statement. I know how to verify whether information found online are true. Now, people respond also by means of a Likert scale. This is definitely about me, or this statement definitely defines me. This statement definitely doesn't define me. Now, I mixed, or actually put the results related to whether the statement was about certain people together with whether people look for information online almost daily or daily. Interestingly, statistically speaking, because I've done the statistics, people who think that they can differentiate information that is true from the information that is untrue, they actually they look for information daily or almost daily in about 5% of cases. Now, another interesting thing is that even those people, this is the bottom row, who think that they cannot differentiate truth from untruth, they still look for information daily or almost daily in 5% and several times 36% of cases. Now, this was information about mental health, and this slide shows information about physical health. Still, people who think about themselves as knowing how to differentiate truth from untruth, they look for information online.
So we could be happy if the people who can tell fake from real news, that they look for information online, but if we check it, if we verify it with their other answers, it looks like this. So here you can see people who say, I know how to select the best words for the search engine. So these people think they have the competence of searching for information online. But if we cross-check it with the people saying that the first hit is usually the best, but it can't be the best. Oftentimes it's not, even though it's displayed on top. So look what happens. People who said they cannot select the keywords, they cannot search online, when they say this is true, it should not be surprising, but just notice how many people who think they can do it, how many of them said that they are not sure. Actually, this I'm not sure answer is quite similar in terms of percentage. How many people said, yes, I can do it, but in actuality, they have shown by answering another question that they cannot do it. Is that just a theoretical exercise? No, it's an important outcome for us. Because do you know what's the question for all of us in this room who are involved in media education? How to make people willing to learn something new, even though they think they already can do it. There must be something that happens on the way so that they are willing to talk to us. It's like somebody approached you and they would say, I will teach you how to do scrambled eggs, but I can make scrambled eggs. If I'm convinced that I know something, I'm not really willing to accept somebody who is going to teach me that. So I'm leaving you some food for thought to consider later, that it's not really what it seems. I've been involved in researching online violence mechanisms. Just look how important it is. I think I know how to tell that somebody has been harassed online, and a significant percentage of young people say they think they know how to do it. But when we ask them if liking or sharing a post can have negative impact on somebody else. So if somebody does something negative for another person and you like it, or you share it, or you rate it, are you also hurting someone because you are fueling the hatred towards a person, even if you have not started it? 1/4 of those people who said they could tell if somebody is harassed online, they say this is not true. So they say, I'm able to tell when somebody is harassed, but actually they are harassing their peers without even knowing it. So just see how many pitfalls there are in this way of thinking, and just see how many people are not sure. This is really difficult for us because we come to them with some educational messages, we try to tell them something, and they say, yeah, we know it, this is clear, this is evident. But if we look deeply inside it, what's beneath those declarations and feeling of the young people, it turns out to be completely different. And this is really interesting, and this is worth considering, because it is just much more complex than those declarations of young people saying, I can do it or I cannot do it. We should look at what they actually can do and what's their actual level of knowledge. So this is something we should realize, and this is an educational challenge for us. So what do they do if they think they know it? That's really interesting, so stay with me. I know how to verify whether the information found online is real. Some people say, yeah, I can do it, I can accept the information, and I know how to tell if it's real. But now I have crossed it with a question. I have shared information which later on turned out to be fake news over the last year. So just see what the percentages are. Somebody say, okay, if they say they cannot tell the difference between fake news and actual news, they will share it. But just see how high the percentage is of the people who said they know how to tell fake news, but still they have shared it. 13%, 17%. This should be quite terrifying to us, how this attitude is not correlated with their actions. There is some statistical difference, but it is so small that I can say that whether a young person says they can or cannot do something, it doesn't really matter in the context of what they are actually doing. Okay, so now how do you interpret that? They think they know it, but they don't actually know it? Not necessarily. You might have the knowledge, but do something against your knowledge. We oftentimes assume that if they know it, they won't do it. No, it doesn't work like this. I know it's not a good idea to sit on the couch for the whole day, but I can stay home all day. And somebody would ask me, don't you know it's not good for you? Well, that could happen, right? So doing or not doing something depends on the context, the surrounding emotions, other people, habits. Do we address it in education? With Professor Napiórkowski, we went to this conference organized by NASC. We had those two speeches. Maybe you remember that. It was about what should we teach young people in the context of fake news and what some people do it. How to differentiate this message, check who created this message. So sometimes we tell them, check out everything you find online. So do nothing else, just sit at home and you find a message, then launch your search engines and so on and so forth, right? We, of course, do it all the time, so this is why we advise it to young people too. No, this is completely out of this world. It's not realistic, and the people don't really care that they will see something which is not true online. Maybe it's a joke, maybe it's something else. But you should know when it is worthwhile to verify the information you find. So if you see that something is spinning them up emotionally, maybe this is the warning sign that you should check the information. This is much more realistic and this is actually feasible. So sometimes the advice we provide in the educational context maybe sound nice, but nobody does it. We don't do it ourselves. We know the young people won't do it, but we do it sort of as a ritual of education. But what's important here is that if we don't address the context, the surrounding other people, emotion and habits. So if you know what aggression online is, then you won't do it. No, it's not true, because my colleague convinced me to do it. This is the context. So if we want to have some modern media education, we should address something else than the knowledge about the risks. This is a dead end. It's never gonna work. We might be happy that we do it, that we hand out leaflets, that we raise awareness and so on, but if we don't go deeper, we will not get anywhere. Umberto Eco says that the basic subject at school should be filtering information. But just look, it's not that easy. We cannot just teach young people algorithms how to check information online. Yeah, who created this information? But what's the source of true messages? Official media? They often take it, find it online, and then they explain, yeah, but you know, we find it here and there. Or it could be a student sitting in his garage in the United States and broadcasting news. If we try to advise young people, if it's not provided by the official media, it might be not true. Well, not necessarily. It's a bit more complicated how to do it. I have one more question to you about knowing the environment. Do the young people understand how internet works? Well, everybody gets the same information when they look for it online. 14% of young people said it's true, 25% said I'm not sure. They're really ignorant about the aquarium. So the first post on the online media portal is the one that was posted by one of my contacts. 28% said true, 35% said I'm not sure. See how high the percentages are. Using hashtags increases visibility. 6% say no, not true, 22% say I'm not sure. Companies pay regular people to use their products. So do you know that you are being subject to some product placement or marketing activities? 12% say not true, 17% say not sure. So do you know what's the basic conclusion here? If you don't know if it's affecting you, then it does affect you more than if you knew it. So even if you learn about it, we had this great discussion during the NASC conference, can we overcome the algorithms? But we have to try. So two most important questions. How should the media education change to meet the challenges? So let's appreciate the problems. Let's notice they are really complex. Let's not oversimplify the problems. And what are the limitations limitations of media education, because everybody talks about media education as a protective measure against everything. If we teach you how to tell fake news, you will be safe. But you might be, can you be able to tell fake news if you don't know medicine, the political context, the social mechanisms? Some people say you can differentiate it based on the message only. Not true. So we are trying to tell them we are going to teach them how to save the world, but we should think about education with incorporating media education. That's a different approach, and I do encourage you how to do it. I have opened some doors, but I can see that there is a time for changing our values, changing our approach to this area, because it is a pitfall for us thinking about digital competences. So I think it's time we revised what we took for granted. Many of you who have been specialists for a number of years might have the feeling of a plateau here. I think I'm feeling we came to a deadlock and we have to think how to break it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this extremely interesting presentation and those great insights. Professors, please stay with us for a moment because we have several questions from our online participants. We're going to see them in the screen in a second.
Jak motywować uczniów do analizy informacji w sieci?
How to motivate students to analyze online information. Yes, I have touched upon that, but we have to be smarter when we do that. If we tell them analyze everything you encounter, then it's not going to happen. That's one. And secondly, it's not possible. And then thirdly, if you convince somebody to try and do it, they will give up pretty soon. So we have to be smart doing that. We have to try to analyze what information requires an analysis. Then we have information research over affect, that we are most susceptible to fake information when it raises a lot of emotion, like political polarization, our own personal views. So it doesn't really matter if they're right-wing, left-wing, if they're red or brown or whatever, but when they feel they are getting so emotional, they see red based on the information, then they should take this psychological cold shower and think about it. Okay, I should take a step back here before I take any action. So it's not about doing much more, it's about acting smarter. So I would stop here and think analytically how to start doing that. I would change our methodology here. And my general advice would be to consider whether our advice is really realistic. It's like we say people to make your own rules at home, to do this, to do that, but who actually does it in real life? I heard it so many times, but I have never met a person who would do it day in, day out. So we should really consider if the advice we provide to people is realistic in the context of how people are functioning, how they get along, and so on. So I think we should also verify how the recipients of our educational activities see what we provide to them. We seem to do it over their heads, we invent our own ideas, and we think we have a clean conscience because we don't really check if it's smart, if it's not, if it's effectively reaching them or not, if it's working or not. Thank you. And we have one more question. Do young people learn how to use their phones on their own, or are they taught by the adults? They learn to do it on their own, but what do they actually learn? If we use some text editor, this is also a technical skill for some office software, we could say. But if we look at seminars and if we find a student who is good at using text editors, that's really something special. So they learn to do certain things, but they don't know how to do other things. And every alert teacher during the remote education was surprised with how many things the students were not able to overcome. Maybe some people thought they were faking it, but it's not true. There are really lots of inequalities in this area. If we think that young people have lots of technical skills, they are so good with technologies en masse, it's not really true. There is no research that confirms that. It's one of the basic myths about what's going on here.
Trzecie to jest w zasadzie chyba komentarz.
And the third thing, it's actually a comment. And what if the people who say they can verify information from the internet and they admit they have forwarded some news feed and they talk about learning from their own mistakes? I'm not really sure I can understand the question. I guess it's about learning from their own mistakes. I'm sorry, but I can't really tell. I don't want to take the question because I'm not sure what they mean here. It was mine question, actually.
Ladies and gentlemen, please ask the speaker to speak to the microphone, otherwise we cannot hear the question.
To wcale byłoby nie głupie. Ja uważam, że w ogóle...
That wouldn't be stupid. I think that using the mistakes of young people in teaching and also generally in life is very useful. So the young person knows, okay, I did something wrong, and if the consequences are not that severe, then this is an educational activity. But very frequently we focus too much on consequences and too little on actually learning from the experience. So what I'm trying to say is that we should turn those consequences into opportunities, into something that we can learn from for the future. Now, we have to know that we are not free from making a mistake. We as adults, we also do stupid things in the internet. Politicians, artists, don't they? Don't they attack people? Don't they put stupid content online? Yes, they do, but these things are not studied.
Dziękuję serdecznie.
Thank you so much.